Hello, Bishes. Before I get started, I wanted to first thank FlexiSpot for sponsoring today's video. If you've been in search for a stand desk or an ergonomical chair, FlexiSpot will be offering deals and discounts on June 29th and June 30th. Some of you might know, but I have both the height adjustable standing desk EN1 and the ergonomical office chair OC10, and my back and my spine are extremely thankful. I personally believe every artist should have a workspace that suits their body's needs and doesn't kill them. So if you've been looking for some more ergonomical options for your workspace, check out the link below for FlexiSpot's Prime Day sale. And as you can see from today's video title, today's video topic is a bit of an extreme one, with the lack of ergonomic options being one of the initial reasons as to why I did not really want to work in animation anymore, or I wanted to quit. But to my surprise, there actually were ergonomic options once I started working at animation studios, because they would start having stand desks and these chairs that are good for your back and stuff. And honestly, if I just asked the studio specifically for a stand desk, it never seemed to be a problem to receive one. However, I will say what gave me the impression of thinking that animation studios will just be a pain for my body was mainly due to my time in art school. Of course, it's art school and they won't have those types of really advanced furniture pieces for every student. But after 4 years of spending my time in art school, I really wanted to question if this was the right career path, if all I was going to do every day was just sit and hunch over on a chair and desk. But turns out that once I started working in a professional environment, it was not that much of a problem to request for more ergonomic furniture. So yeah, I ended up actually looking up one of the chairs from one of the studios I worked for, because it was a really great ergonomic chair, only to find out that it was over $1,000 online, and I was like, well, this is why I just use it at the studio and I'll resort to FlexiSpot back at home. So rewinding a little bit more back in time, let's start from when I first started in CalArts. When I first started at school, I was really excited to just start this new path in my life where I was really gonna just follow what I've wanted to do since I was a kid. I'm finally pursuing and taking action upon my childhood dream, and this was something that was nearly unattainable back in New York because the animation industry was pretty much non-existent. There was no animation community. The only way to reach some sort of connection to anyone in animation or just learning more about that world was by going online and not being around my actual surroundings in New York. Although now that could be different, I don't know, because studios are starting to open up a little bit more everywhere. So I was a few months into my first year at CalArts, and after I got all the excitement out of my body and got used to the fact that I was being exposed to people who created things that I literally watched as a kid, I pretty much hit a plateau moment and was just like, okay, cool, now what? Pretty much the hedonic treadmill. Simultaneously, I've always had this urge to just go out and live my life, and I know who doesn't want to do that. But I felt like for me, I don't know if this goes for everyone, I spent a lot of my life just really not going out. I'm already an introvert and I'm an artist who is so eager to improve her skills, and all I really did from elementary school to the end of high school during my free time once school was over was just go back to my room, sit on my computer, and draw. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I don't want to demonize my past self for making that decision, because I wouldn't be here, honestly, without her spending all of those hours sitting in her room drawing. But the cost of that was pretty much just lacking a really good social life and not really being so outgoing, and there were just so many other parts of myself that I felt like I could explore if I just took a pause on animation for a moment. I will say that my first year of CalArts was probably one of my worst years, just because it was a huge adjustment and there were a lot of important family events happening outside of that I had to miss out on every single time. And I know I'm not the only student who felt that way. Everyone had their own thing going on, but I'm just talking about my specific one. So I felt like I kind of got a little bit depressed my first year, and that also contributed to my lack of interest in animation. Like, whenever I thought about art and animation in school, I just had no emotion. I just did not feel anything about it. I did not feel excited. I did not feel angered. I didn't feel anything. And I felt like my art style also kind of took this toll and started to feel a little bland at that time in my life, just because that's really just how I felt about it. I felt like I just had to do this to fulfill my career or life milestone, and not really because I loved it anymore. So during that time in my life, I was also starting to really just develop who I was as a person without art and animation being attached to my identity. Because I feel like when you grow up as the art kid, people always just know you as the art kid and ask you to draw stuff for them or whatever. And that's just how you're known for. You're not really always known for being cool or funny, fashionable, or whatever. But I will say that art students are more on the fashionable side, but I think when we're in high school and stuff, we're still in the middle of figuring that out. So I think it's once college happens that we really bloom in our fashion. That same year was when Instagram also just became a thing. That was when it really picked up, and when it was mainly just a photo sharing platform. And through that, I really discovered a lot of new places and fashion trends and things that just really interested me outside of animation. And I was always looking forward to finding new places that I could explore, or new outfits that I can try or consider as a part of my wardrobe. And even though these things kind of sound superficial and shallow, let me just at least say that I felt like when I was a kid, I didn't even have the chance to feel superficial or shallow or just think about materialistic things, because I was always just so caught up in feeling like I was just not going to get anywhere in life, being in a super academically driven school, but being that one art kid that wants to go to this one random art school all the way on the opposite side of the country and stuff. So I felt like this was my moment to finally be so selfish with myself. So you might be wondering, well, Michelle, if you don't want to do animation, then what career path would you have chosen if you were in that mindset? And I'll be real, this is gonna sound so silly, but I honestly was considering becoming just an influencer on Instagram. And I was just like, I just wanna travel and see the world and just get paid for that. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but these people are doing it, so I hope it's possible for me too. So I never actually took action in this, as you can see, because I am still here today in animation. But one thing that did stay consistent from my alternate dream was having some sort of platform on Instagram, and that ended up actually happening, but it wasn't for fashion or traveling at all. So now you might be wondering, how did I get back to wanting to get into animation again? So I honestly took about a year or two off of drawing anything really personal for myself. Like, yes, of course, I still doodled and scribbled and sketched, but in terms of really spending a committed amount of time doing any personal art for myself like I used to, that was just pretty much non-existent, because now all of my energy for art was being put into school or preparing for my student film and all of that. And I was just like, okay, this is the only time I'm really going to be drawing is for school related stuff, but during my own personal time, I'm just doing my own thing. And I honestly think that was a great decision I made for myself, because for once in my life, I was actually working out consistently and eating healthy and taking the time to be mindful of my nutrition and going out and socializing, actively looking for events to just hang out with my friends who were not in animation, and spending time with my family, exploring new fashion trends that I wanted to feel confident in. I was dyeing my hair different colors. I was experimenting with all of these different makeup looks. I learned about all of this new music on SoundCloud back when it was more of a thing, and I was attending all of these concerts, concerts and events that my introverted little middle school, high school self probably would have never thought about going to. I also usually used to bring my sketchbook with me everywhere that I traveled to and would draw my observations there. But when I traveled this time to all of these other countries and places, I was just like, I'm not bringing my sketchbook. And I fully just focused in on the moment with whoever I was there with. After that mini hiatus, I started to resume back into my animation world once I landed a internship at Cartoon Network. And at this job, I literally did not draw at all unless if it was for this pitch that we were going to be doing at the end of the internship. So in terms of my internship itself, I did not draw anything for the show that I was on whatsoever. So I started to just spend my time looking at different artists' blogs again, just because during my downtime at work, you just really didn't have much to do as an intern because you're usually just left with an empty schedule a lot of the time, to be honest. So I would spend time just starting to stalk some artists that I liked again. During this moment, I ended up starting to feel a little bit jealous over all of these amazing artists, and I was like, wow, I just love how they draw, and they don't care if they have same face syndrome, they don't care if they only stick to one specific style, they don't care if they look obviously stuck in their comfort zone, they don't care about anything, they just draw and post it and call it a day. And it gave me a moment to reflect on why I really stopped drawing, and a lot of it did have to do with the pressures that honestly nobody put on me except myself, because I felt like once I entered this world where, hey, this is going to be a part of your life and your career now, you better really ramp up your skills in animation and art. It's a lot of pressure, and I feel like that pressure is just something that you're not really used to when it comes to your hobbies or passions until it becomes an actual solidified part of your life. Like once you go to school for it, or once you start a job for it, or once you do anything serious in your life with it, is when you're starting to realize some of the cons that come along with it. So I think I realized that the reason why I really just stopped drawing for a while for personal things for myself was because I couldn't help but always just think about everything that I hated about what I drew, or I kept thinking about why I just was not good enough every time I drew, and the best way to just not have those thoughts was to just not draw unless if I really had to, or minimize the amount I drew as much as possible, because for some reason I could not find the confidence within myself, within what I created anymore, once this became a part of my student life and soon to be career life. So I ended up finding my confidence elsewhere. During that time, I took a break through finding a disciplined routine to work out and just travel and expose myself to so many different things, and even just finding new fashion trends or ways to make myself feel more confident in my actual body or something like that. I was exploring all of these other ways of how I can feel confident without tying art to my identity. But once I felt that confidence come from all of these other outside elements, I think that was when I finally had a moment of feeling like I wanted to challenge myself to find the confidence in my art again. While I was stalking all of these other artists' blogs online, some may call it jealousy, but I like to call it motivation, because when I see other artists just draw whatever the hell they want and not care about how other people might perceive or judge them on, it really inspires me to do the same, and that in itself inspires me more than just someone's art style only. So I started to draw personal things for myself again by slowly drawing it and keeping it private. I would only send certain things to my friends or my boyfriend if I drew a little cute doodle of us, or I would just keep it and let it marinate in my photos until I was like, you know what, I kind of got over this drawing, I guess I'll just post it now. And that was when I would share things, is once I just no longer felt like icky about it, or if I no longer felt like any sort of insecurity about any flaw of it, I would just be like, you know what, whatever, and post it. The same went for my work at school and for portfolios was, you know what? I'm just gonna draw stuff that I personally like and just see where that goes. Like, I've already tried drawing so many things that I thought would make me feel more confident, like things that other people might think are cool or things that other people might like to see in their portfolios. But no, I'm just gonna draw like what is stuff I like? What do I feel like drawing? I'll just draw that. And I ended up doing that. I scrapped my whole CalArts portfolio that I did based on my school assignments, and I just purely redid my portfolio based on my own personal interests. And that actually was the one that ended up getting me a job. So, one of the things that really stuck to me that I sometimes think back about was after having a lunch with someone during my Disney internship, and while we were walking back to the studio after lunch, we were just talking about living life and feeling guilty that you're not working all the time and stuff like that, because no matter what, I feel like you will always have those thoughts. But then the person said something to me where he said, "Hey, well, you can't create life if you don't live life." It's one of those things where you always just kind of know, like, of course I know that, but you don't really live up to it because quotes are only quotes until you apply it actively in your life with real life examples that you're going to do and not just keep in your brain. And after I've spent all that time kind of just living my life and gaining all of these new experiences with this newfound confidence, I was just like, wow, now I have all of these things that I experienced. And now I don't know who to tell it to other than my friends and family who have probably already heard it from me millions of times already. And that's kind of when this wasn't intentional at all. And that's just kind of when I started to find this motivation to create art again. And that included making comics. There was still a part of me that always yearned for that dream of just like, wow, I wish I could just wear cool outfits and go to this random event or place out there in the world and just get known for that. But I feel like at the end of the day, that was just more of me reaching an extreme where I really just wanted to find a new part of my life I could be totally indulgent in. But I realized that I can still feel that way with creating art and not having to totally abandon it. And instead of me being like some random influencer in some other universe, I'm just gonna be able to hopefully influence people with the stories that I can share from my own personal life and my personal experiences. And I'm not trying to do it in a way that is like toxic. It's just more of me just sharing snippets of my life. I hope it made you smile. I hope it made you think a little bit more. I hope it made you just feel a certain type of way. Like, I'm not here to like totally manipulate people's minds. I'm just here to just share a segment of my life and you can take what you will do with it. So, in summary, I pretty much just almost quit animation because I felt like I was in a space where I could no longer see it as a form of happiness in my life after constantly being surrounded by it in my day to day life. And by being surrounded by it 24/7, I started to always just see the bad parts of my work and just couldn't really feel confident in it. So I found my confidence elsewhere during my little break away from it. And after spending a good amount of time, I gradually began to recirculate back into animation and thought about how I could merge the two together, like being my personal life and work in terms of art, comics, animation, storyboarding, that stuff. And as enticing as being some travel Instagram influencer, whatever, sounded to me in that moment, I just knew at the end of the day that was me trying to sabotage something that was already going really well for myself. And I just feel like I wasn't able to see that in the moment. But once I started to pick up on creating art for myself and sharing it again, I started to remember why I felt grateful about choosing this path. Anyway, I hope that this video or this little story time served as some sort of inspiration or motivation for anyone who is currently feeling down in the dumps about their work and is questioning themselves. I feel like you should try to just hold on to it, take a break, figure things out outside of the thing you're trying to take a break from and see how you feel about it when you revisit it. Like, I almost thought that maybe art is not for me just because of an adjustment in my life that made me start to demonize what I once loved. But after living my life, I started to see how this shouldn't be my form of validation. This shouldn't be my form of identity. This should be just how I communicate the things that I experienced in my life, which were all great, wonderful things. So why not use your power of creating art to tell those stories to others? So yeah, hope you enjoy this little story time, and I will say that definitely getting ergonomic furniture helped me hate it less when it comes to drawing, animating, storyboarding, whatever. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the story time, and I will see you all in the next one. So peace out and stay wholesome, bitches.